Hi, you probably already know that transit is good. And undoubtedly the best form of transit is rail transit. Trains are efficient, versatile, reliable, and not to mention really cool. And a couple of months ago I came across this iceberg image while scrolling on Reddit and thought that it would make a great video to release just after Halloween. Anyway, everyone knows what an iceberg chart is, but a few things before we begin is that I should clarify that the entries on this list are sorted in terms of how obscure they are, at least from a North American perspective. Full credit goes to, this person on Reddit for making this iceberg, and the original post is linked in the description below. I also apologize in advance for my terrible pronunciation of some non-English words here. So without further delay, let's jump right into the icy waters of the Rail Transit Iceberg. Now, the general idea of a car-brained person is somebody who knows very little about transit, drives their car everywhere they go. They usually don't live in the city yet think they have the right to drive through it at 80 miles per hour and often oppose transit because of ignorant beliefs, to put it simply. These first few entries are some common uneducated positions and misconceptions about transit that you will hear from these people. Trains? Wheels on track go brrr. Yes, that's the definition of a train. We're really starting out simple here. I hate sitting in my Ford F-150 waiting for railroad crossings. Car-brained people often blame transit services or cyclists for causing traffic when the real cause of traffic is themselves. Other than that, a well-built rail line should be fully grade separated, meaning the train never has to interact with cars. This makes the line safer and more efficient. Trust me, bro, electric SUVs are going to save the planet, bro. This is referencing people who say that if everyone just drove an electric car, the massive environmental impact cars have on the planet will magically be gone.
Like that's ever gonna happen. What a load.
Electric cars will not save the environment. Just like gas cars, they are part of the problem. The only way to reduce transportation emissions is to build denser, transit-oriented cities and get people to drive less. Hyperloop. The Hyperloop is essentially a low-capacity fantasy train that travels at insane speeds through a vacuum tunnel. The technology is unsafe, untested, prohibitively expensive, and worse than regular high-speed rail in pretty much every way. Elon Musk, who was one of the biggest proponents of Hyperloop a few years ago, even admitted that he only supported it so it would get the actual California high-speed rail project cancelled. Security check isn't that bad if you have global entry. Global Entry is a US customs program that allows you to be pre-approved for security check upon entry to the US, which you're only eligible for if you're a citizen of a country on this rather short list. I don't know why this entry is on here. It isn't really related to transit, but anyway. US immigration dumb. Moving on. Probably buys a $100,000 truck without checking interest rates. We seem to live in a new golden age of stupidity where some people, mainly in the US, deliberately send themselves into debt buying massive cars they can't afford because they think it makes them look cool. They then drive everywhere in their hideous, oversized truck that gets 10 miles to the gallon and proceed to complain about gas prices. Just one more lane, bro. We're totally gonna fix traffic. Just one more lane. I swear this time we'll do it. This meme is referencing how many US transportation departments don't understand a well-known traffic planning phenomenon known as induced demand. This planning rule basically states that building more lanes will get more people to drive their cars on the newly widened road, which fills up the road again and makes no difference. America is too big for rail. This is one of the most common excuses that opponents of transit make as to why the US should not have good transit. It's a really stupid reason because the average American is not commuting between Seattle and Miami every day, and even if they were, our regional trains suck compared to those of some other countries. China is larger than the US and has great transit, while Kuwait is much smaller than the US and has much worse transit. The size of a country has nothing to do with how well transit would work there. Brings laptop while riding. Being on a longer train ride allows you to relax and do other things such as working on your laptop. This is unlike driving, where you have to keep full attention on the road at all times or you will crash and probably die. Trains are not half bad. No, they are not. They're actually quite good if I say so myself. Why are some subways called subway and others called metro? There is no reason. However, some North American cities call their underground rapid transit systems a subway, while across the rest of the world the term metro is more commonly used. Some cities have their own unique name for their subway, such as the Tube in London or the L in Chicago. High-speed rail is kind of good, actually. High-speed rail is very good if built well. It's undoubtedly faster than driving, and in many cases faster than flying when you take into account all the time you spend at an airport before you board your flight. Amtrak. Amtrak is the main inner-city passenger railroad company of the US. While it is a for-profit corporation, Amtrak is still a majority government-owned company. It operates several regional routes across the US, though its vast majority of ridership lies in the Northeast. Express and local service patterns. Many rail transit networks across the world operate express services, usually on longer routes with many stations. The express line skips many, if not all, stations to get people out to the more distant stops in a more reasonable time. New York Subway. We all probably know this one. The New York Subway is the largest and most expansive subway system in the Americas, and has the highest ridership by far of any North American transit network. Long Island Railroad. The less well-known sister to the New York Subway is the Long Island Railroad, which operates commuter trains across Long Island, branching east from New York. It is the busiest commuter rail system in North America, with an annual ridership over 75 million. Train to Busan. Train to Busan is a 2016 South Korean zombie disaster film that takes place, as the title implies, on a train to Busan. Overall, it's a really good movie, and it's tied for my second or third favorite zombie film alongside Shaun of the Dead. Train to Busan takes place on the South Korean high-speed rail known as KTX, which is just as fast as Japan's Shinkansen's but not nearly as appreciated. London Underground. Dating back to 1863, the London Underground, also known as the Tube, is the oldest subway system in the world, and one of the most expansive mass transit networks in Europe. There's even a scene in a James Bond movie here.
He's keen to get home.
Commuter rail. Commuter rail, also known as suburban rail, is a type of rail service that usually serves to move people rapidly into the city from the suburbs or other more distant areas of the metropolitan region. Unlike urban rail, which gets people around the city, commuter rail trains usually have more seating and decreased frequency on longer lines with more spaced out stops. That is, unless your city's name is Chicago, where the commuter lines somehow have more frequent stops than the actual mass transit system. Shinkansen. Shinkansen, which translates to New Main Line in English, is a network of high-capacity, high-speed bullet trains running across the islands of Japan. Northeast Corridor. Now, the term Northeast Corridor could refer to one of a few things. The first is a chain of cities stretching from Washington, D.C. to Boston, with a total population over 50 million. The second is the electrified Amtrak line, which runs through this megalopolis, being the busiest Amtrak route by far. And the third is an NJ Transit commuter line that goes from Trenton to New York Penn Station, and runs on the same tracks as the Amtrak line of the same name. That's really confusing for these three completely different things to all have the same name, so here's my suggestions for some new names. The Amtrak line can keep the name Northeast Corridor, while the NJ Transit line is renamed the Garden State Line, and the chain of cities can be called Mega City 1. Why insert any city not in North America is extremely well designed. This entry is referencing a trend of YouTubers over the past few years making videos about cities usually in Europe or East Asia and how quote-unquote well-designed they are compared to their North American contemporaries. These videos are simplistic in information like this one, but usually informative. However, the main problem arises with the assumption that a megacity like Tokyo was designed, which it definitely wasn't. Tokyo just built out rail transit at the forefront of its infrastructure, in contrast to a North American city like Toronto or Chicago, which neglected its transit in favor of building out car-centric infrastructure.
Oh, that's a bad idea. That's a very bad idea.
Eurostar. Eurostar is a railway company primarily operating in the UK, France, and Belgium. It operates both regular and high-speed trains and is most well known for being the primary operator of passenger trains on the HS1 through the Channel Tunnel. It also operates seasonal ski trains from London to the Alps. NJ Transit. NJ Transit is the primary transit operator within the state of New Jersey. It operates a wide array of bus and rail services, and while I've never been to New Jersey, I've heard that the rail services are overall pretty good with the exception of the Newark Light Rail, while the bus services are a complicated nightmare. SNCF. SNCF, which stands for something I'm not even going to try to pronounce, is the National Railway Company of France. SNCF operates over 18,000 miles of passenger rail across the Big Hexagon, including over 1,700 miles of TGV high-speed lines. Paris Metro. Still on the topic of France, the Paris Metro is the urban metro network serving Paris. It features 16 lines with 4 more under construction and is known for its Art Deco station design. The Paris Metro also has one of the shortest interstation averages of any subway system, only outdone by Chicago's downtown subway, where the train just inches like 100 meters down the same platform and they call it a separate station. Look at how many subways China has built. Through the power of economies of scale and the standardization of metro design, China has been able to build more subway systems in the past 30 years than any other country in the world. While most of this progress has occurred in the largest and densest Chinese cities, smaller cities have also seen improvements, such as Hohhot, a city in Inner Mongolia that opened a 2-line metro system about 5 years ago, despite only having about 3 million people. This makes Hohhot comparable in size to many North American cities that lack any form of rapid transit. Looking at you, Tampa. S-Bahn. The S-Bahn system is a kind of hybrid urban-suburban rail system that originated in Germany. Many of these networks are designed to operate as a rapid transit or urban rail line in the city, before branching out and operating as suburban rail in the outer fringes of the metro. Some other S-Bahns operate with metro-like frequency and capacity, such as Copenhagen's F-Line. Regional rail. Regional rail is a term that is most commonly used to describe rail services that lie somewhere between inner-city and suburban rail, branching longer distances to connect cities and towns with more stops than inner-city. Though sometimes regional rail is a term used synonymously with inner-city rail as well. In other cases, regional rail can refer to a type of suburban rail service with better train frequencies, whereas commuter rail is usually operated on a rush hour schedule, getting people into the city in the morning and back out at night. Regional rail operates more consistently throughout the day to accommodate a wider array of commute types. I'd say there's about 5 main types of rail services, but the borders between them are very loosely defined and frankly inconsistent. Paris RER. Still on the topic of S-Bahn systems, the Paris RER is the French version of the S-Bahn, which complements the Paris Metro with additional lines that branch further out from the city. This network also serves both airports of Paris. It's the only rail service out of Charles de Gaulle and was the only train service to Orly until the opening of the Line 14 extension earlier this year. Metro North. Metro North is a commuter railroad serving the tri-state area. Most of the lines branch out from Grand Central and head north to serve smaller population centers in Connecticut and upstate New York. Metro North is the second most used commuter rail system in the US after Long Island Railroad and has the 3rd highest ridership per mile. Deutsche Bahn on-time performance memes. There's a litany of memes relating to the absolutely dismal on-time performance record of the German national railway Deutsche Bahn. I like this one the most because it does highlight the fact that even though German trains may never be on time, at least they exist, which is more than can be said for many places around the world. Elizabeth Line. The Elizabeth Line is an S-Bahn type line that runs east-west across the London metro area. Built under the name Crossrail, the line was inaugurated in 2022 and since then has become one of the most important rail lines in the UK. Chicago L. The L is the informal name for Chicago's elevated urban rail network, operated by CTA. It features 8 lines, but really it's only 7 because nobody cares about the yellow line, and has the 3rd highest ridership in the US, behind DC and New York. London Overground. Complementing the London Underground, the London Overground is a suburban rail network serving the more distant regions of Greater London, from Theobald's Grove to Hackney Wick and south to Brockley. Oh, if only North America had inherited the age-old British trait of funny place names. Windsor-Quebec City Corridor. Now, Canada is a funny land where almost half of the entire country lives in an area forming a straight line between the cities of Windsor and Quebec City. If Canada wasn't run by complete morons that have a personal vendetta against bike lanes, high-speed rail would have been run through this corridor decades ago. Wuppertal. Wuppertal is a German city in the Rhine-Ruhr metropolitan region that is known for its one-of-a-kind suspension railway, or Schwebebahn. This strange elevated system of hanging trains was built over the river Wupper due to the lack of land in the city to build a regular train. Operating since 1901, the Schwebebahn carries about 80,000 people across the city every day and is the topic of several YouTube videos from enthusiasts of all things weird. Washington, D.C. Metro. The Washington, D.C. Metro operates across the District of Columbia as well as in Maryland and Virginia. It operates 6 heavy rail lines and has the second highest ridership of any rail network in the U.S. after New York. Also, no hate to New York, but Washington has way better looking stations in my opinion. Pictured here is Forest Glen Station in Silver Spring, which is the second deepest metro station in North America after that weird one in Portland. Brightline. Brightline is a regional rail line in the state of Florida. It runs between downtown Miami and Orlando International Airport. Brightline is the only privately owned passenger rail line in the US and takes about 3.5 hours from end to end. California High-Speed Rail. The California High-Speed Rail project is a plan to connect San Francisco and the Bay Area with Los Angeles by running a high-speed rail line through the Central Valley. Future extensions are also planned up to Sacramento and further south to the Inland Empire and San Diego. This plan has been delayed many times, and overall the whole project is a long way from becoming reality because transit construction in the US is measured in geological epochs. MBTA. The Metro Boston Transit Agency serves the city of Boston and the surrounding municipalities. It features 3 heavy rail metro lines alongside the rather unique Green Line, a light rail whose route under Tremont Street is the oldest subway line in North America. Shinjuku. Shinjuku Station is a major hub and transfer station in Tokyo that accommodates over 3.5 million people every day, making it the busiest railway station in Japan and the world. Shinjuku is served by all these different railways, and the general area around the station is a good reminder that Japan is actually in the 24th century and we're all just trying to catch up. Trolleybus. Trolleybuses are a type of electric bus that draw power from overhead wires similar to a tram or light rail. These types of buses are the most environmentally friendly type of bus and are popular in West Coast cities such as Seattle and San Francisco. Pictured here is a trolleybus in Shanghai, which has the oldest and one of the largest trolleybus networks in the world. BART. BART, which stands for Bay Area Rapid Transit, is the closest thing the US has to a true S-Bahn. It operates 5 main lines that run between major cities in the San Francisco Bay Area. Despite the impressive scale of the system, ridership is lower than should be expected, mainly due to poor land use around many of its stations. Hong Kong MTR. The Hong Kong Mass Transit Railway is a railway company operating rail transit services in the Special Administrative Region of Hong Kong. The MTR has 10 rapid transit lines and 12 light rail lines, and has a daily ridership over 5 million. East Side Access Gateway Project. The East Side Access is a tunneling project in New York that concluded about a year ago. It allows Long Island Railroad commuter trains to serve Grand Central Station by passing through the existing 63rd Street Tunnel. In classic New York style, the project was massively over budget and delayed by over a decade. Thameslink. Thameslink is a network of trains in southern England that operates both regional and commuter services. The name comes from how the service connects the north and south sides of the Thames River via the Snow Hill Tunnel. Frecciarossa. Frecciarossa is Italy's high-speed rail network operated by Trenitalia. These fancy red trains run at speeds of up to 300 km per hour, and the Frecciarossa network is actually pretty huge and covers almost all of Italy. Don't mind these islands, they're probably not important. Singapore MRT. Singapore's mass rapid transit system covers most of the island nation with 8 high-frequency metro lines. The MRT is the busiest metro network in Southeast Asia and has an insanely good on-time performance record. You know, Singapore is basically the Switzerland of South Asia. World-class transit that's highly reliable, a complicated government few people understand, and completely unaffordable. Chinese high-speed rail. To say that China has built a lot of high-speed rail in the past 30 years would be an understatement. This is a map of Chinese high-speed rail corridors in 2008, and this is 2024. Please, North America. You can do it. It's possible. Please. Sydney Trains. Sydney Trains is the transit agency operating rail transit across the Sydney metropolitan area and has the largest transit network in Australia. Recently, Sydney has been building out its fully automated metro system at breakneck pace, including an extension to the new Sydney Airport about 45 kilometers west of downtown. Nederlandse Spoorwegen. The Dutch Railways Company operates over 3,200 kilometers of regional and commuter rail services across the Netherlands. The busiest station in the country is Utrecht Centraal, which is also the site of the railway company's headquarters. Berlin HBF. Berlin Hauptbahnhof is the central rail station of Berlin, being served by Deutsche Bahn, S-Bahn, and U-Bahn trains as well as trams. It is the 4th busiest train station in Germany and only a few hundred-meter walk away from the German Bundestag. Draws fantasy transit map. Drawing your own fantasy transit map is definitely something that every transit enthusiast has done at some point. For example, here's a concept I drew up for Nashville, where this useless section of highway could be removed and replaced by 3 light rail or light metro lines because it's ridiculous that a city as big as Nashville completely lacks any rail transit. JR East. JR East is the largest of the 7 constituent companies of the Japan Railways Group. It operates trains of regular and high speeds across the Tokyo metro area as well as the eastern half of Honshu Island. JR Central. Same thing, different region of Japan. JR Central also operates the Tokaido Shinkansen, the world's oldest high-speed rail line. Avelia Liberty. The Avelia Liberty is a high-speed train intended to begin operation on the Northeast Corridor next year, if it isn't delayed again. This will be the first true high-speed rail service in the US, though travel times won't decrease significantly because most of Amtrak's rail infrastructure will need major improvements before higher speeds can be achieved. Yamanote Line. The Yamanote Line is a bi-directional loop line serving downtown Tokyo and connecting several of the busiest stations in the country. Its rolling stock consists of these futuristic-looking E235 trains that match the yellow-green color of the line on maps. Alstom Bombardier. Bombardier was a German-Canadian rolling stock manufacturer that was acquired by French train company Alstom in 2021. Some notable Bombardier rolling stock includes the Toronto Rocket, the CTA 5000, and the Bucharest Metro. Among Alstom's lineup is the Avelia Liberty that I already covered and much of the Paris Metro's current rolling stock. Velaro. The Velaro is a series of high-speed trains built by Siemens that are used on high-speed rail lines in Europe, Turkey, and China. Mexico City Subway. The Mexico City Subway is the 2nd busiest rapid transit network in North America after the New York Subway. It features 12 metro lines, most of which have rubber tires. Also, the metro system's construction has resulted in more than 20,000 archaeological finds. Jesus, that's gotta be some kind of record.
The doors are closing. Please keep clear and hold on.
Brightline West. Brightline West is a proposed high-speed rail project to link Los Angeles and Las Vegas by a 2-hour train ride. If built, this train will get people between the two cities in half the time it takes to drive or fly. However, the main problem is that the plan has been scaled back over time. Speeds over 150 miles per hour may be off the table, and the line won't even go all the way into Los Angeles, instead terminating in Rancho Cucamonga. And inefficiencies like this will lead to a much less useful service. Siemens. Siemens is a German company that manufactures rail rolling stock, among other things. Lots of transit systems in the US operate Siemens vehicles for their light rail networks, including San Diego with the highest ridership light rail network in the US, as well as Denver, Sacramento, and Minneapolis. Passing loop. A passing loop, or passing siding, is a type of short track branching off from a single-track railroad that allows a train to essentially pull over so a train going in the opposite direction can pass. For passenger rail lines that are single-track, passing sidings can also double as station platforms, like this station on Denver's N Line. Shanghai Metro. The Shanghai Metro operates 19 lines across the economic capital of China. It currently has the highest ridership of any metro system in the world, with an average daily ridership over 10 million. Japanese rail system passenger count. Across the islands of Japan, there were over 22.6 billion passengers carried by Japanese railways in the year 2023. Japan has one of the highest rail ridership rates per capita and a population over 120 million, or now, which explains the ridership figure being this high. Caltrain electrification. After close to 7 years of construction and $2.4 billion, the Caltrain electrification project came to a close in April of 2024. The benefits of the new electrified Caltrain include increased frequency of the line while reducing carbon emissions. Hopefully, the success of this project will inspire other commuter rail networks across North America to do the same. SBB CFF FFS. That appearingly random string of letters refers to the National Railway Company of Switzerland. To literally no one's surprise, the Swiss rail network is one of the best in the world and has excellent on-time performance. With over 2,000 kilometers traveled per person per year, Switzerland currently boasts the highest ridership by passenger kilometers per capita in the world. Rail Baltica. Rail Baltica is a massive plan to build over 600 miles of electrified passenger and freight rail between Tallinn and Warsaw. This will connect the 3 Baltic countries of Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia to the rest of the European passenger rail network, while an undersea tunnel is planned to run under the Gulf of Finland to Helsinki. Do I hear Channel Tunnel too? Bogotá BRT. Bogotá, the capital and largest city of Colombia, is known for Transmilenio, one of the largest bus rapid transit systems in the world. Bogotá does not currently have any rail transit, so this rather complicated BRT system fills the need for rapid transit, and Transmilenio currently has the highest ridership of any BRT system in the world. The Transit Cost Project. The Transit Cost Project is a non-profit research group aiming to identify the inefficiencies of transit construction funding in North America so that we can get back to building rapid transit on an affordable budget instead of being like California, where a 6-mile extension of BART into downtown San Jose is going to cost over $12 billion. Mumbai Suburban Railway. The Mumbai Suburban Railway is a network of suburban rail lines serving the Mumbai metropolitan area. Operating since 1853, it is one of the oldest railways in the world. Talgo. Talgo is a Spanish rolling stock manufacturer of regular and high-speed trains. In North America, Amtrak operates Talgo trains on the Cascades route in the Pacific Northwest. Honolulu Skyline. The Honolulu Skyline is an automated rapid transit project on the island of Oahu in Hawaii. Currently, only the western half of the line is operational, running between various suburbs and fields. Unsurprisingly, ridership is low, but hopefully by 2031 the line will run all the way to downtown Honolulu and become an actually useful service. Whoosh. Whoosh is the name of the high-speed rail line on the Indonesian island of Java, the most populous island in the world. The high-speed line runs from Java to Bandung, with plans to extend it all the way to Surabaya. Beijing Subway. The Beijing subway network is the largest metro system in the world by total length of track, and has the second highest ridership in the world only behind Shanghai. The city of Beijing was planned on a grid-like system, which many of the metro lines follow. This gives the metro an interesting layout that isn't really seen anywhere else. Robert Moses. Robert Moses was a highly influential James Bond villain, city planner, that is one of the most infamous car-centric planners of the 20th century. His policies enacted some of the worst urban renewal programs that destroyed and divided neighborhoods in cities across the US, especially those inhabited by minorities, and replaced them with highways. And to think that we're still doing this. Just a couple years ago, highway developers paved through a neighborhood in Bakersfield, California to build an effectively useless highway bypass. CRRC. CRRC is a Chinese rolling stock manufacturer that produces rolling stock for rail systems across the world. One of note in the US is the Los Angeles Metro, which is currently running its new HR 4000 trains on the D Line or Purple Line. London Suburban Trains. London is a very complicated city when it comes to rail transport. Even though I've already covered the Underground, the Overground, and the Elizabeth Line, there are still like 7 other rail networks in London that I haven't gone over yet. Some other railways operating commuter services across Greater London include the Great Western Railway, C2C, and Chiltern Railways. Toronto bus frequency. The central areas of Toronto have really strong bus frequency, as high as 1 bus every 3 minutes, which is something not usually seen in North America. Many of these high-frequency buses in Toronto serve as feeder routes to the metro system, which is also very frequent and reliable. Copenhagen Metro. The Copenhagen Metro is a light metro system in the capital and largest city of Denmark. It is fully automated and driverless, and features a rather unique loop line that was built all at once. Unlike the massively delayed Honolulu Skyline, the Copenhagen Metro was built on a reasonable budget and opened on time. Taiwan High-Speed Rail. Taiwan has a single high-speed rail line that crosses almost the entire island in just 1.5 hours. An extension of the line to Pingtung County has been approved and is expected to open by 2029. Hitachi Rail. Hitachi Rail is a Japanese train manufacturer that is known for building straddle beam monorails, which can be seen in both Tokyo and Chongqing. Hitachi is also under contract to supply the trains for Toronto's Ontario line when that opens sometime in the next century. Hyundai Rotem. Wow, look, another train building company. Hyundai Rotem is a South Korean rolling stock manufacturer that is a part of the massive Hyundai conglomerate company. Rotem has built trains for cities across the world, including most of Korea's high-speed rail stock and the Silverliner 5 for both Denver and Philadelphia's commuter rail networks. JR West. Back to the map again. JR West is the second largest of the 7 constituent companies of the Japan Railways Group. It operates trains across Osaka and Western Honshu. Through running. Through running is a more effective method of routing rail services than having the lines terminate at the city's central station. It increases operating efficiency and decreases crowding at the transfer station if the lines are allowed to run through downtown instead of having to stop, let everyone off the train, then turn around and head back out the way they came. And that's the end of this section. We are now officially halfway through this massive ocean liner sinking iceberg. And while I was originally intending on making this all one single video, this has been quite the project to edit. So I'm splitting it into 2 parts because I want to actually enjoy my winter break this year. Part 2 will be coming after hopefully nothing goes horribly wrong in January and no massive upheaval of all transit funding in the US occurs. Great. Bye.
Hey you, yeah, you. Do you know what kind of train this is? Huh? Train, do you know what kind of train this is? Well, do ya? It's a Baldwin 284 S3 class Berkshire type steam locomotive, built in 19...